like long story short, my parents got me a one-way ticket to Chicago. They didn't really know what to do, and so sent me to Chicago. I did the boot camp, and I was expecting to come home, but I just never had a ticket back, and so I just stayed with Sensei Sharkey, and that's the story from there.
What's up, guys? Today's guest is a former NASKA World Champion and tricker turned stunt performer. Please welcome to the JAMCast, Mr. Micah Karns.
Hell yeah, Travis.
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Dude, gotta say, guys, this is one of the most sought after and requested guests in history. I think I've been sending you DMs on Instagram for like a year.
Yeah, a while.
And at first, he had a good excuse. He was out of town. He was not in the country. But then I'm not going to lie. We have to thank Mr. Vlad Rimberg for putting this one together.
Damn you, Vlad.
So just a little backstory, guys, on why we finally got Micah, because I know everyone's been asking. I got a call from Vlad about a week and a half ago, and he was like, hey, man, I want to shoot a fight scene in your backyard. I'm like, of course, dude, anytime. Who's in the fight scene? And he goes, oh, it's Guy Da Silva and Micah Karns. And I went, oh, interesting. So if Micah's free to do a fight, can you get him on the JAMCast?
Damn it.
And the call was made.
Right.
Hell yeah. So how'd the fight go with Guy? You guys just shot a fight scene?
It was good, yeah. First, it was me, Tony Viteroso, and Justin Chang, and we were inside my apartment.
Oh,
and then that eventually leads into your backyard.
Oh, dude, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was like a 5-day shoot, something like that.
Okay.
But we're all finished now, and I think it'll turn out good.
Nice. That's super cool. I'm excited to see it too. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even know about the intro. Hope Vlad doesn't get mad at us for saying that.
Yeah. Damn.
You guys heard it here first, a sneak peek, man. But more than anything, thanks for joining us, dude. It's super surreal for me to sit down with people like you, just because, you know, not to talk down to you or anything like that, but like I've watched you ever since you were a little kid. Mm-hmm. So like to now be sitting in this format, working on jobs where you're also working as well, like it's pretty surreal to me. It also makes me feel old. No,
it's really cool. Not too long ago, Jim Ing from New York, shout out Jim Ing.
Shout out.
He posted the old school video from White Lotus where we were training. It was like me, Jacob Pinto, all you guys. That was crazy. That was a throwback.
That's one of my favorite videos to the Bust a Move song.
Right. Yeah. It was really cool to watch again. It took me back.
It's crazy. You know what I always think about whenever I think of you and Jacob and little Andrew is I think of you guys back at White Lotus when you guys like first came just to like trick, and you guys were literally kids, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I think you, in 2009, how old were you?
I don't know, Travis.
11 years ago. Subtract 11 from your age, right?
26 right now.
Okay.
I was young.
So you were 15.
Mm-hmm.
No way. That is absolutely insane, man. And now, hey, Connor, really quick, hit the 2009 video.
Oh no.
Yo, this is the Micah Karns that I will forever remember. Like this is when I think of you, this is what I see in my head right now, which is so funny.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yo. Micah with the long hair and the highlights.
The flexed feet.
Yeah. Still got that Gumby though. Yo, so crazy.
Damn.
So when you were here on this trip, do you remember, were you just visiting for Competes then, or were you actually here?
To be honest, I don't remember. I think it was for Compete.
And then
I begged Sensei Sharkey to go to White Lotus and he let me go, and it was amazing.
That's so funny, man. That's pretty crazy. And you pretty much just like kind of touched on it. There's a lot of stuff that you've done in the present day that I'm going to talk about down the road, from working on, you know, Terminator to Deadpool 2 to Black Panther and stuff. But I think everything all starts from the man that you just mentioned, and we've talked about him at length here on the JAMCast because we've had so many other guests. What was your relationship with Sensei Sharkey, and when did you officially go over to start training with him?
I first met Sensei Sharkey when I was maybe 7 years old.
Okay.
And we met him at a NASCA tournament. I don't know what NASCA tournament it was, but then my dad and him became really good friends. And I think later that year, my dad sent me to the boot camp that they have, that 30-day boot camp, right?
Yes.
And I ended up training under Matt Mullins, Craig Henningsen, Chris Brewster. It was crazy. So I did that for a month, and then eventually, later down the line, I was 14 years old, and then I moved to Chicago, and then I did karate full time.
Wow. And when you moved to Chicago, like for those that don't know, you actually fully moved to Chicago by yourself, right?
Yes. Yeah, So I moved to LA when I was 10 from Anchorage, Alaska.
Yes.
And I stopped doing martial arts and I was pursuing acting. And then throughout those couple years, what do I want to say? I was kind of like a troubled kid, right?
Yeah.
Causing trouble everywhere. And basically, like long story short, my parents got me a one-way ticket to Chicago. They didn't really know what to do. And so sent me to Chicago. I did the boot camp and I was expecting to come home, but I just never had a ticket back. And so I just stayed with Sensei Sharkey, and that's the story from there.
That is pretty wild, man. And now, what was that like going to a new place like that? Like, obviously, you knew about Sensei Sharkey from the years of like training from before, way in the past, but was it like a super like open relationship right away, or did it take time getting used to seeing him every day, you know, outside of camps and stuff?
To be honest, it was, I knew him from before, and as soon as we started with the camp, like everyone's pretty like family.
Yeah.
You know, so there was no weirdness right away. Like I felt pretty at home right away. And the only time things got funky was when I found out I didn't have a ticket. I was like, but then it is what it is, you know, so I just stayed there.
That's wild, man. And so what did that entail then? Were you just at the gym every day, just after that point, just training every single day?
Yes. So I lived at the karate school. I lived there at the time with Brennan and Mickey.
Okay.
But shout out Brennan and Mickey.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would sleep there, wake up and train. We would go get lunch, come back, train a little bit, and then classes start. And then that was my only job, is to teach classes from like 5 to 8 or 9.
No
and then
way.
after that, more karate. That's all my life was back then.
That is pretty wild. I remember there was like a hyper interview of you like back in the days. And the line I'll never forget was you saying like, I pretty much only do karate. That's my life. Like you basically were like, I have no life. It's just karate.
There was nothing else to do, you know, when you live at the school. But that's cool. It was perfect. That's all I wanted to do back then.
Kept you out of trouble and also helped build your skill set, which you use today.
Yeah.
That is wild, man. And so one thing that I got to ask is, because we've had a lot of other people on here that are obviously students of Sensei Sharkey, including Ross, who's like a good friend of yours. What do you think makes Sensei Sharkey's school so unique, and why was he able to breed so many world champions turned stunt performers? Is there something that stands out?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think part of it is how picky he is with cleanliness and technique. And I used to train at a karate school in Alaska called Okamoto's Karate.
Okay.
And that was a good karate school, but even in comparison to Sharkey's, there's such a what am I trying to say? A focus on technique.
Okay.
You know, like just doing one punch like 1,000 times throughout class, and if your thumb is one way, you know, he bitches at you, whatever, you fix it, and it's that throughout the whole system. You know, and so I think maybe it was him being so picky on technique and whatnot. That's kind of what bred everybody to be who they are.
It's wild to me, just because like, you know, some of the names you named earlier that you trained with at camp, like Matt, Craig, you know, Chris, those guys have all advanced in their careers now, but it's just so rare to have one studio that has so many multiple world champions all at once. Like, it's kind of a rarity, you know?
Yeah, it's cool.
That is super dope, man. The Sharkey family is crazy. And so like, obviously he's a stickler on the traditional side. How did you get into doing tricks and things like that? Was that part of him teaching you, or is that like you just exploring on your own?
No, I mean, we have so Monday through Friday is our traditional class, and then Saturday and Sunday we had our XMA program, which was all the kids that basically did NASCA. Right?
Yeah.
And he kind of had the same, wrong word, but like the same kind of rule set, where it's like, even though we're switching off from traditional martial arts to performance martial arts or extreme martial arts, right? The same like technique stuff was there.
Yeah,
right? Nothing could be sloppy. You had to go through everything slow, make sure it was perfect. And then as far as tricking, that happened on the weekends as well. Saturday and Sunday we would focus on extreme martial arts and tricks, and then it was something that I kind of grew into really fast, along with like Tony Vitaroso, Will Greenberg, all my friends that were there around that time when I was 14 when I first came up. Tricks was something that we kind of grew into really fast. You know, it's that sport that you love when you're really young. It's really cool. So that's how that happened.
And were you there at the time when you first got there, when you're 14? Did Sensei already have that spring floor from the competition, or was that like later on?
That was later on. That was way later on. They had just Swain mats, the old Swain mats.
Yes.
Yeah. miss those floors.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about. And so, like, obviously you trained with Sensei Sharkey, and one of the things you're known for is you competed on the NASCA circuit. Is there a tournament that stands out in your mind as being like the one that you're most proud of winning, or one that sticks out in your mind as being most memorable?
I think U.S. Open. Honestly, the three for me are like the AK Grands because the Warrior Cup, Diamond Nationals because Diamond Nationals, right? And then U.S. Open. But U.S. Open sticks out to me just because when I was real young, I used to watch like Emig, Rudy Renown compete at the Night of Champions, and that was the tournament.
Okay.
It's because it's in front of everyone. The room's big. It's on ESPN.
100%. And now, who was crafting your forms back then? Were they being made by yourself, or was Sensei having input on them?
Back then, before Brennan moved to LA, it was all Brennan Hewer.
Oh,
He
wow.
kind of gave me. He was like my teacher, my older brother. Like he was there every day to kind of harp on me and fix things, and even being there to watch him.
Yeah.
In itself is like a lesson. You kind of see how he does things, and then you kind of, being that young, you kind of like steal from it. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, I could do this. And then as I got older, you can kind of change things around a little bit, and so most of that goes to Brendan.
That's crazy. Brendan's one of the most slept on guys.
Yes,
in the industry.
All the time. Yeah,
one of the most slept on performers in the industry, and I always give Brendan a shout out when I can.
Yeah,
it's crazy. He was in that tricking video too, the one that Jim posted recently.
Yeah, he was.
And I was like, whoa, Brendan's throwing tricks.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
You never see that anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal, man. That's wild. And so one of the things that like I've always wanted to ask you, and I'm sure a lot of the followers and listeners of the show, the reason why they wanted to have you on is because one of the things that I think really has always been associated with you is cleanliness. And now obviously you've talked about it with Sensei Sharkey being a stickler for all the technique and stuff like that, and moves and things like that. How did you develop your clean tricking style? Was that literally just years, hours and hours and hours of practice? Were you videotaping yourself and rewatching it? Like, what was the secret to getting your style?
There was a whole lot of watching Jeremy, Anise, and Danny.
Okay.
A whole lot of that, because those were the goats back in the day, right? And back in the day, it's like no one was as clean as them, especially Anise, and it's like I would kind of watch that and try and emulate it. And then there was a whole lot of like placing your phone in different angles and doing the same trick and trying to see like what your body is doing at a certain point in time and trying to fix it. And I think it was just a whole bunch of that.
Okay.
Nonstop. Yeah.
That's wild to think about. And now, hey, Connor, can you pull up, go to like some of his samplers and pull up like, I don't know, click any of his samplers, like 13 or 15. I think one of the samplers that a lot of people really remember is this one, which was done by Pete back in the day. And this is the old pockets out one, I guess. And I think one of the things that a lot of people remember from this is like your swing throughs and like your handcuff swings and stuff like that. And so did you like, and I guess the reason why I want to bring this up is because you were such a traditional martial artist that obviously the kicking style would have catered best to your natural training abilities, but you really became like well known for like clean swings and things like that. How did you first learn swings?
I think my first swing through was when I was like 8 or 9. I used to train with Wayne Douglas when I was younger. He used to teach me bow staff privates. And he first taught me an aerial and I think a cheat gainer from that. And so that was my first swing through.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I think I kind of lost all that, right? And then I went to Chicago and then started training tricks. At some point I ended up trying Gumby Cork. And then from there it was the obsession with swing throughs. And so I would just do that nonstop.
That's pretty funny.
Nonstop training on swing throughs. And
I only know that because on your channel itself, there is a series of videos that you released where you're doing corks to dubs. And I think you literally posted like 1 to dub, 2 to dub, 3 to dub, 4 to dub, 5 to dub.
Just go down the line.
You were just, just increasing it each and every time. And it's so funny to think about. And so one of the things that I think you're also known for is you were one of the few people back in the day, obviously besides the legends and the goats that we talked about, where people associated with you doing icy corks, right?
Yeah.
So
that's a weird name.
It is, right? Yeah. Icy corkscrews. And for those that aren't trickers and don't know their terminology I'm talking about, icy just means super clean, super perfect, like nice technique. It's so dope. And so when you're doing a cork, what do you think about, because one of the things I see differently is like your trail leg looks different than other people's. So when you're doing corks, is there a secret that you have to your technique?
I don't think there's a secret. No. I heard Dan Perez talk about it one time. I came into jam early to stretch before open gym.
Okay.
And he was talking about how every trick, I might get this wrong. Sorry, Dan. That
Dan.
every trick is like a beach twist or a raise. And then he was showing him like rolling on the box, right? Yeah. And he swung and did like a half cork and landed on his back and then rolled out. And I think it was like constant drilling like that, and the same idea, watching how your body like spins and what your feet are doing, what your legs are doing, and then finding a position that you like.
Okay.
I think doing that nonstop kind of changed my body position to whatever it is now.
And when you're doing your corks, are you spotting anything in particular? Are you spotting the ground? Are you spotting the air? Or is it just muscle memory at this point?
I spot the ground. I've tried, because everyone spots everywhere different. Like I've heard people like swing up and like spot the wall.
Yeah.
And I've tried a bunch of different ways, and it's like I always get lost and fall somehow. So it's usually like lift and swing, and then I see the ground, and then I know it's just a quick like 360 from there, and then I see the ground again. So
you double spot the ground.
Yeah.
Dope. I've always wanted to ask you that. Okay. And then what about when you're doing your handcuff swings? What are you doing in order to generate that momentum and keep it going? Because for a long time, there was a huge, I don't want to say misconception, because it is still useful, but everyone was like, you got to live and die by the eagle. If you don't hit the eagle, you're not going to swing through.
Right.
So how do you do corks when you have your hands cuffed behind your back and you don't have the eagle?
I've really only done it from swings. So it's like if you go like cork, swing, handcuff, cork, it's getting the momentum and power from that first swing.
And then you just hit
right,
the
yeah,
same
it kind
thing.
of carries over naturally, even if you don't use your arms.
That's wild. What's the most swings that you've done? I know you've entered the swing through contest at my gym a few times.
I think 14 corks, 14 gainers, and like 9 grandmaster swipes.
Damn.
Something like that, yeah.
That's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Now, of everything that you do in tricking, what's your favorite thing to do? Do you have a favorite move that stands out, or is there something that you like to train? Like, for example, I know in Nice, this dude is still obsessed with his hook kick.
Yeah.
After all these years, he still just cares about his hook kick.
Yeah.
Is there a move that will forever be the one that you're always training and working on?
I don't know, to be honest, Travis.
Yeah, that's
yeah, I'm not sure. I think, I don't know if this answers your question, but like my favorite move is Sideswipe.
Okay.
Just because I remember when I first went to that boot camp when I was 14, Brennan taught us raise at some point, and then I already knew how to 540 really badly, but he just had to do the same thing and switch your legs. And I did like the craziest, like laggy side swipe, like
your leg from the ground.
Yeah. And ever since then, it's been my favorite move.
Dude, you know what's funny about that? And if Connor had his mic on, he could attest to this. We had to do a photo shoot like a month ago, and they were like telling me all these moves to do, and I'm like, nope, I'm doing Sideswipe. That's the go-to, baby.
For real. It looks good.
That's the go-to. So, and it's kind of funny too, because I was going to ask you this. Were you also a member of Team Sideswipe?
I was for a little bit, yes.
Which is pretty awesome. And how young were you when you got onto Team Sideswipe?
It
had to be a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I did my first performance with them, I think when I did that first boot camp when I was like 7 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, we went to like Notre Dame College? I don't know. We went to Notre Dame somewhere.
Okay.
And we did a performance, and I just was swinging my little staff around.
That's so
But
funny.
then, yeah, when I came back when I was 14, it's kind of, if you're living at the dojo, you know what I'm saying? And in that time period, you're going to do Sideswipe shows. So
of course.
that was my life.
And for those that don't know, Team Sideswipe was like a martial arts performance team that back in the day, at one point, like when they first did like shows on TV, I think Steve Tirada was in one of the performances with Chris Brewster and Matt, right?
Yeah.
And then over time it developed, and I think Matt kind of took the head like leadership position of it. Mm-hmm. And at one point they even had a live stage show in Las Vegas.
Yes, which I was also part of.
I was going to ask you.
Except I was underage at the time, so I didn't get paid.
Oh, what?
But so I was kind of just helping out and performing, and that was an amazing experience. Even though the Tropicana experience itself and however like that went down was shitty, but the experience itself was good.
And how long were you out there in Vegas for?
Shit, I could be wrong, but I think I was out there for maybe a little under a year.
Wow.
Those guys. Yeah.
And you guys were doing shows every day,
Damn, I forget the schedule. I think some of them were almost every day, like one in the daytime, one at night.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah.
And that's crazy because a lot of people are always like, when's tricking going to get on a bigger platform? And I'm like, dude, we're kind of going backwards. Like at one point we had a stage show in Las Vegas that was basically, it was martial arts, but most of it was sport karate and tricking in my personal opinion.
Right.
So that's wild. And how old were you when that happened? You said you were underage, so you're still a teenager then.
Yeah, I was, I had to be 16 or 17.
Holy crap.
Like that, yeah.
That is wild.
I thought I was just going to go out there to kind of like set up the show, and then me and Sensei were going to dip, but then I just ended up staying there.
You had a one-way ticket.
No, yeah, right? Damn you, Sensei.
Damn, that's so funny, man. And then at what point do you make the decision then to move to Los Angeles and kind of follow in the footsteps of the rest of your, Sensei Sharkey karate members?
Kind of made the decision or talked about it when I was like 16 or 17, I think. And it was, I knew I was kind of done with NASCA at that point. I already won a bunch. And I know I didn't want to stay at the school teaching karate, right? I wanted to do something. And still to this day, just like back then when I was younger, I still very highly look up to Brennan Hewer. And in that time period, when Brennan left to go do stunts in LA, I just wanted to follow his footsteps specifically.
Okay.
So I was like, definitely not gonna go to school. And I don't want to do NASCA. I don't want to teach karate. It's like, that's the natural path I should follow, is to do exactly what Brennan's doing.
That's wild. And how old were you when you officially were allowed to move or actually made the move out here?
I think I was 18 years old. I think
Crazy.
18 or 19, forget.
And did you do the traditional drive where Sensei Sharkey drives you out here?
Yes. No, yes, he did that with everybody.
Everybody.
And I think maybe mine specifically, he drove more of the way. I was just like knocked out.
Yeah, I've heard about this from everyone that Sensei Sharkey, he's the one that drives everyone out here.
Yeah, he's a trooper.
That's crazy.
Cigarette and a coffee, he'll drive wherever. It's all good.
Much love, Sensei. That's awesome. That's so cool, man. And so now, obviously, you moved down here when you're 18, and so you've been here for what, maybe 8-9 years at this point now? 8 years?
Yeah, around that.
That's pretty crazy. And when you first moved out here, just for kids that are out here that are kind of thinking about doing the same thing, how long did it take you before you actually started working? When you first moved here, did you work right away? Were you just training? What was it like when you first got to LA?
I think I was in LA for 2 months before I got my first job. My first stunt job was a Pepsi commercial with the stunt coordinator was Algado.
No way.
Yeah.
He was a legend.
Yeah, he is. And that was my only time ever seeing him. He was really cool. It was just for 2 days and that was it. But I feel like I've been, ever since that point. Oh, actually, okay. So I did that commercial, and then after that, like maybe a month or two, nothing was really happening. I was just at Jam a lot training. Remember that? Armand, Rabanal, yeah.
Shout out Armand, the cameraman, for all of us. Filmed all of us.
So nothing was happening, and then me and Ross and a couple other guys got the email to audition for Marvel Universe Live, and so nothing was going on, so we auditioned for that, and we ended up doing that for like 3-4 months, maybe, something like that.
Oh, snap. I didn't know you did it too.
Yeah, and that was a good experience. It was fun.
What character were you?
Dude, I wasn't a character. I played a Chitauri.
No way.
Yeah, I was just like moving
just
around.
Running around.
Actions. Yeah. Whatever. But during that job, during the Marvel Universe Live, I got a call from John Valera.
Okay.
JV. And I haven't heard that name since I was like 7-8 years old, like watching him on stage, you know? And so it was crazy for him to call me, but he basically just asked if I was available, and then that's when I got the call for Ninja Turtles 2.
No way. And
so ever since then, I've been kind of getting like work consistently, so I feel like I haven't had the same path as some people in LA, you know, where you go a long time without work. I was kind of very lucky that these guys called me and took a chance on me.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing. I'm like, people ask me all the time, like, how'd you get into the business? Like, what should I do? And I'm always like, you shouldn't ask me for advice.
Yeah.
I've had a very atypical path. Like, I don't hustle. I don't do that stuff. I've been very blessed. But it's kind of crazy. You know what's funny? Al Godo was there on set for my first SAG job ever.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So that's pretty surreal, man. Yeah, that dude is a legend. He coordinated Breaking Bad, for those of you out there that don't know who he is. He basically has a monopoly on all the shows in New Mexico right now. But he's a good guy. That's crazy. I didn't know you did Marvel Live, dude. That's wild. And were you traveling around at that time, or?
Yeah, we were traveling around the U.S. It was me, Ross, Johnny Gao was there. You know Johnny Gao.
Yeah.
And Kirk Jenkins.
Yes.
And my friend Nate Hippass.
Hey.
Yeah, so we had like the whole squad together. It was pretty fun.
That's cool, man. That's something I'm kind of jealous of. Is I never really got to do the live stage show stuff because I kind of got thrust right into film, which is a blessing. I'm thankful. Right. But one of the biggest regrets in my life is never having done a Cirque du Soleil show as a performer.
Yeah.
Now that I see what they get paid compared to us, I'm totally cool with it. I'm like, oh, I'm good, dude. Yeah. But that is something that's pretty interesting, man. And so what's that like, man? You're like a young kid touring with your homies, and then you get the call to go to a little movie called The Ninja Turtles, which is something that I'm pretty sure all of us in this damn room grew up watching at some point. And not only that, but I know the crew of guys that you went to go work with.
Yeah.
And what was that like, and who was on the team with you when you went out there, just so our listeners know, since I know, since it's our homies.
Yeah. So it was John Valera, Jonathan Eusebio, and then Danny Hernandez. And then it was myself, Matt Emig, Anis Sherfa, and Danny Graham. And
never heard of any of them.
Yeah. It was crazy for me. I went in only really knowing JV. So, and then me, because I was young, still new to this, is like JoJo was like whatever, Danny Hernandez, whatever, right? But then I'm there with the three, like Emig, Anis, and Danny, right? So that was crazy. But then very fast, I found out how good JoJo and Danny were, and I was like, oh, this is what this is. Yeah, it was a good experience. It was cool to be on a job like that with those three guys.
Yeah, man.
Danny, Anis, and Matt, because I looked up to them for a long time, so I felt very comfortable.
It's pretty crazy because I had a similar experience where I did like maybe a couple of small jobs, but then literally like within 6 months, I got called for my first run. And I've talked about it on here so many times, I'm not going to rename the people, but it was so surreal to me because like I was thrust into this thing where I'm like, I feel like a freaking white belt around all these people. You know what I'm saying? And I started to get like a little self-conscious, like, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not ready for this. Like, is everyone judging the way I'm performing right now? Like, it's crazy what goes through your mind when you're working with people that you grew up idolizing, you know? And so like, I can kind of see where you're coming from, especially being young like you were back in the days. It must have been crazy.
Yeah, they definitely put me through the ringer. It was good. And I've shot like some videos and some previses before. Yeah. But they were definitely testing me, and it was good to kind of feel that my first year in LA, because it's like right away I was like, oh, this is what this is supposed to be about.
Totally.
This is not what I thought it was. And so it was a good kick in the ass.
And I was going to say, what's it like working with Anis, Danny, and Matt? Like you obviously mentioned that they kind of put you through the ringer and stuff like that, but did you feel like they were treating you like big brother, little brother, or
no? Actually, they were my saving grace.
I'm
talking strictly Danny Hernandez, JoJo, and JV. They were awesome. They were good friends the entire time, and they kind of like they showed me the ropes. They talked with me.
Okay.
Yeah, those guys were cool. It was mainly the older guys. Yeah, they fucking put me through the ringer.
Understandably so. And I've been there too. Sometimes you just got to do that just to make sure that you're grounded,
right,
and not going to get a big head. You know?
And if I wasn't grounded, I was fucking grounded right after.
I was gonna say that's one way, man. That is wild, man. And so after Ninja Turtles, you moved back to LA. Do you remember what the next major project that you went on was?
Damn, the next major project I think was maybe Daredevil.
Oh,
yeah,
snap.
Daredevil. Yeah. I don't know how long after that, but I got a call from Phil Silvera.
Yes.
And he just asked me to come to New York to do this job. Okay. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. And from there, I was just supposed to do the Teenage Ninja part in whatever episode that was. And I ended up, to him, I look back at the previs and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? But to him, he said I was like a very quiet kid, but I killed it. Like I turned it on when I needed to. And so he ended up, instead of flying me back home, he ended up keeping me. And I doubled one of the main characters in the next like 2 or 3 episodes.
That's dope, man.
Yeah. And so I think Daredevil was the next big job for me after that.
That's a cool story for kids to hear too, to like know that like, even yourself, you got flown out for what was going to be a short-term job. And then you impressed the coordinator enough that he actually asked you to stick around for the long term. Yeah. And I know more than anything, like Phil has used you on multiple projects ever since there. I know that you've also worked with him on some stuff, Pacific Rim Uprising. Right. You worked with him on Terminator and Deadpool.
Yeah, right? Deadpool 2 would be the next job after Daredevil, but him and Tim Miller, who was the director of the first Deadpool, they had Deadpool 2, and then stuff happened, right? And then Tim Miller left the show for whatever reasons, and then Phil also left with him. Yeah. And so we did like like 4 or 5 weeks of mocap previs for that.
Yeah, I've seen those.
It was like me, Jimmy Chu, Amy Johnson, Lateef, Wayne Douglas. Yeah, that was that. It was a fun experience. It was really cool. And then after that happened, Dave Leach and JoJo had the project, and then I went to Canada for like a month and a half.
Super cool.
Yeah.
That's wild, man. All right. And so like of all the projects that we just named right now, is there one that stands out in your mind as like the most difficult one, or one that you'll never forget along your stunt career up to this point?
Out of all the ones we just mentioned, I think Terminator. One, it was such a big show, and I was assistant fight coordinator under Jimmy Chu, and it was my first time like making choreo, helping teach actors, which I kind of did on Black Panther already. Yeah. But this time it all fell on me and Jimmy. You know, we had to teach everyone. We had to go talk to wardrobe. We had to talk to props, and it was like my first time doing that. So it was a good eye-opening experience for that position.
That's definitely cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. And it's so funny too, because I remember when Jimmy was just starting to jump into fight coordinating and stuff like that, he like came over and we had like a long ass talk and a lunch, and we were like, I've shown him like how to break down scripts and like how to do all these things. And it's so surreal now to see that he's out there like fight coordinating things and working with Freddie and stuff. Like, it's so surreal. That's dope, man. And so you just kind of touched on it too. One of the other projects that I want to bring up is a little movie that people may have heard of called Black Panther. And I know you got the chance to go out there alongside Matt Emig and help like work on the core team with choreography and training and prepping and stuff. Yeah. And who was the one that gave you the call for that? Was that JoJo also?
It was JoJo. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he just said that he wanted me and Matt for the fight team, and then that Danny would be the Panther double.
Yeah, Danny Graham.
Yeah, and
that's wild. And what was that like? How long were you on that one for? That was a pretty long one.
I think it was only like 3 or 4 months, to be honest. Yeah. But it was awesome. It was also a good experience. And I think that besides Terminator, that was the one job that really like, that's where I really knew I wanted to do stunts, was that job. And it's like, it opened up my eyes to stunts, and I was like, this is really, really what I want to do now. And it opened up my eyes to martial arts, because before then, I wasn't really training any specific martial arts. I was still just doing karate and boxing, right? Just boxing at like jam. Yeah. But JoJo, one time he called me and Matt in early to train, and he showed us some hubud and some C-lot like groundwork and stuff. And it messed with my head so much, because I've never done any like movements like that. And it just, ever since that morning, almost every night on that job, I was up till like 3 a.m. watching martial art videos. And so that single job kind of opened my eyes to everything. It was awesome.
That's pretty dope, dude. And I know Black Panther, it's kind of funny that you said that's the point when you realize you want to do stunts. And sometimes it takes you getting to a show that's that gigantic to really be like, oh, okay, like this is what it could be like all the time, you know?
Just the whole process of it, like getting there, knowing, like figuring out who the characters are, the script, like what fights we need to do, and then JoJo like allowing us to come up with the choreography, or like he makes the choreo and then we fuck with it a little bit, mess with it a little bit. Sorry,
that's all good.
You know, and then teaching the actors, and then teaching the stunt people, and working with Danny and all that stuff. I love the whole process of it. You know, in a way, it kind of feels like when you're teaching martial arts. You know, you have to come up with stuff for the student. You know, teach the student, and then watch them during competition. It's kind of the same thing. Yeah, you know, I love the whole process. It's cool.
Yeah, it definitely isn't for everybody. Like I do find that there are some people that are incredible performers, but they're not necessarily the best with like training their actor or breaking down scripts and shooting previews and stuff. Right. So it takes like a certain person to be on that side of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. And now you don't got to tell us the number, but were the residuals sick on Black Panther?
They were good.
Sick. Dope. Yeah. That's super dope. I've never asked any of the homies that, so I just wanted to know if they were good. Yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome, man. And so I know most recently, one of the other projects that you got to work with Phil Severa on was, I believe that you got to get your first official fight coordinating credit recently. And what show was that for?
Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix.
Nice.
It's a superhero TV show. And that's another job that like opened up my eyes, is because right before that was Terminator, and I was assistant fight coordinating Jimmy Chu. Yeah. And like looking back at it, I did my job on Terminator to look at movement, to watch movement and fix all that stuff. But then technically I was also assistant fight coordinator. And so after doing fight coordinating Jupiter's Legacy, I saw how much work I didn't do on Terminator to help Jimmy out, you know, and that was also an eye-opening experience for me. I was like, oh God, I have no one to fall back on. Like, I have to do it now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Phil trusted me to do it, and I'm glad he did because we got the work done, and it was cool.
Yeah, it is crazy. That's something that was eye-opening to me too. Was like I first started like assisting guys like Jeff Amata and stuff as like assistant fight coordinator, and I'd be tired and stuff. But then like when I first fight coordinated my own show, and then when I first stunt coordinated my first show,
Yeah.
dude, the amount of work that you have to do.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God.
Crazy. I was like, yo, it is honestly, it's not physically, but it's a lot easier to show up as a performer because you show up at your call time. When you're wrapped, you wrapped. When you're a coordinator, you are not wrapped when it's wrap time. Yeah. Like most times you're going home, you're still editing, you're still breaking down stuff, you're prepping scenes, editing previs. It's an endless amount of work for that duration of a show.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. There's this joke I have with Jimmy Chu on Terminator one time. We, call time was early, right? It was like 7 or 8. Then we went all day. And then afterwards we went to Phil's place to edit. And we did that till like 4 a.m. and we had to wake up at 6.
Yep.
And when we got back home, like our doors were right next to each other. I was like, all right, Jimmy, I'll see you in a couple hours. And it was like that for a couple days. It was crazy.
Yeah. I think that's the side that people don't always get to see, that there is a very non-glamorous side to stunts.
Yeah.
And although we do get paid like very handsomely and I love our job and what we do, there are a lot of times as a coordinator that you're working off the clock.
Yeah.
And we're talking off the clock, around the clock, like to the point, like you said, you slept like 2 hours and then went back to set. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's crazy.
And what's crazy to me is like some of these guys that do it that, no disrespect, it's all respect, but some of these guys that are older than us by a significant amount of years, I don't know how they're able to just push through it sometimes. Like, there's some days where I'm like, yo, I am mentally not here right now, but like I need to be for the team and the production so everyone's safe. But I've been on some runs where like you're on month 9 and I'm like, I don't even know what day of the week it is right now.
Yep.
Like, I don't even know what clothes I put on today. Like, just on autopilot, you know?
Yeah.
What's been the most challenging job that you've done so far? And you don't got to blast anyone if there's a story about why, but if there's anything that could just open up our listeners' ears to like what made something difficult. Has there been any jobs that stand out as being the most difficult in your short career thus far?
To be honest, nothing has been real difficult.
You just jinxed yourself, dog.
Yeah, I know. I'm screwed now. No, but I mean, like, it's not so difficult in the sense that like you just put your mind to it and just do your job. Yeah. You know, when it comes to performing, you just perform, right? And maybe it's easier for others than it is others. And then I don't even know where I'm going with this, Travis.
What do you prefer between the two, though? Do you like being a performer or do you like coordinating? Because you're kind of in that limbo stage where, like, you're at that age right now where a lot of guys just put their heads down and they just want to perform and just make as much money as they can right now. I was one of those guys that around your age, I started realizing, like, my body is fucked up. For lack of a better term. And so, like, I started trying to segue out of things. Where are you at mentally and physically right now?
Mentally and physically, I would like to do both if that's possible. I'm extremely blessed that Phil has given me this position and he's trusting me with it being so young. Yeah. And I love doing it. I love making up choreo, and I love right now. I'm real big into watching movement. I love fixing things, making sure that doesn't look bad. But part of me still wants to perform a lot. You know, like I haven't performed that much. You know, my official, I'm getting all crazy now, for as long as I've been in LA, right? I haven't performed that much in comparison to other people, and now I'm fight coordinating, right? It's like, so I would still like to perform, of course, because it's in my blood, and there's also that part of it where I don't want to fight coordinate it, but then be a crappy performer. True. You know, and so, and the more I work with Phil, the more I'm in that position, so I don't get to perform as much, right? And then when he needs me for previs, nothing feels good. It always feels a little funky, and so it's that weird balance of doing both jobs.
I feel you. Yeah, I feel you. That's why eventually guys just end up just coordinating and not performing as much. But it's definitely possible to do both. Like I've seen some guys that literally bounce from thing to thing and stuff like that, you know? So yeah, it's totally doable. How does your body feel? Are you still, how often do you train, I guess is the better question these days?
I still train for the most part every single day.
Okay.
Or if not, it's every other day. My body feels good. I definitely feel a lot older. Like in that video that we were just playing, when I was training at White Lotus, like there's a huge difference in my body and what it feels like right now. You know, like I remember driving, what is it, like from Chicago to Florida for the US Open.
Yeah, US
and
Open.
I would get out of the car and just start tricking. It's like now I don't even think about doing that, right? But it's like my body feels stronger now that I'm older, right? Just not as
I agree with you.
just can't do things right away. I need to stretch now, right?
Yeah, I'm at that weird point right now where according to males, like our bodies develop later. So like I'm at that point right now where we're supposed to be peaking in the next few years. And I'm like, I feel stronger than ever. It's just the recovery and the warm-up time takes so much longer. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where stretching and yoga is like, that's my thing right now. Hot yoga, dude. Hot yoga is perfect.
That's good for our younger listeners to hear, though. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to do these JAMCasts is not only to inspire people about like our past and what got us there, but also like where things change at like certain stages of life and where things differ now. Like, how often do you trick now?
I hardly ever trick.
And that's crazy, right? Because at one
Yes.
point that was your life. You tricked
Right.
every day,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, that was a crazy switch for me because tricking was my life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I switched like hard 180 after that day with JoJo. I don't know. I just started researching more martial arts, trying to train in other martial arts and especially like in the stunt community, in the stunt world, like I never get hired to throw crazy tricks, you know, or like combos like that.
Yo. Look into that camera and say that again.
Nah.
No, say that again for the kids out there because, no, say what you said again, which is you don't get hired to what?
Throw crazy tricks.
And the only reason I bring that up is because a lot of kids have this misconception that in order to make it, they need to be landing the trips and the quads.
Yeah. Never going to do that. And if you do and you can do it, then hell yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
But it's like I've never done a sheet 720 on camera.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying? You never get asked to do it. And if you do, like you better hope that basic trick looks good. Otherwise you're just doing a gnarly looking 720 and it's going to be there for everyone to see, you know?
Yeah.
So as far as tricking goes, it's like I think my basics are still okay. I can do them, you know, but as far as like combos and harder tricks, it's been so long that I don't even remember anymore.
That is crazy to think about, right? Like I tell people that all the time. They're like, what's the hardest thing you've done on camera? I'm like, gainer.
Yeah.
Like maybe,
right.
I've done a cork once, you know, but that's it, dude. Like they're not asking me to go out here and do a dub.
Yeah. There's
you
no
know,
need for it.
Maybe for a music video down the road.
Right.
That's when you'll maybe get asked to do like corks just because it's visually aesthetically pleasing. But if any of you are interested in getting into stunts, I mean, you just heard it from a man here himself that is known for tricking and he's barely throwing tricks on screen.
Yeah.
It's kind of
if you're younger, and I have no room to talk because I'm still young, but if you're younger, just have a good foundation of basic tricks, right? If you're trying to be a stunt performer, like have all your martial arts down and your screen performance down, and you don't need all the crazy tricks. You just need a solid foundation of basic tricks that look real nice.
Yeah.
And you're good.
Make sure you can throw a front, side, round, and hook kick.
Yeah. For reals.
If you could do dub but can't do those 4 kicks and you're trying to be in stunts, go back.
Right.
Just literally stop doing dubs for a second.
Yeah.
It's like those B-boys that I see, they could do like 25 flares, but then they can't dance. They like
Yeah.
dance
All
like
stiff and
this. I'm
stuff.
like, yo, just stop doing power moves and go learn how to dance,
Yeah.
you know? That's crazy, man. And so the question that I have for you now is since you've made that switch and obviously your career doesn't depend on tricking, do you miss it?
Yes, definitely. I still keep up with it a lot, and everyone's crazy now.
That was my next question.
Yeah. I still watch it on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot, and I just have no personal drive to do it. I'd rather train martial arts or something that has to do with the fight part of stunts. Wow. Right.
Crazy.
But yeah, it's seeing how far tricking has come. It's pretty intense. And honestly, I was kind of brought to tears. I forget where I was at. I was working on something, but it's when the Jam Gathering came out, and like you saw Danny, Michael Guthrie, and Shosei like throwing jackknives together.
Yes.
All 3 generations. Like, yo, that's sick.
That
It was
sick.
so cool to watch, and it's cool to see where tricking has come.
Yeah, that was a surreal moment for me, dude.
Yeah.
To see Danny trick alongside Mike after all that time was crazy. And then the craziest to me was watching Danny get hype over Zen.
Yeah.
Like, he literally was the one running out and like hugging Zen when he's doing
Which is crazy because Danny's like, boom. Zen's like,
I know. It's so surreal to think about. But what's so crazy to me is that like Shosei and Zen right now, and for those that don't know what we're talking about Shosei Iwamoto and Zen Kajihara, who hands down are throwing some of the most difficult tricks on the planet, and they're both only 15 years old right now. And what's so surreal to me about that is that video we played at the first start of the episode was you at 15 years old.
Yeah.
And then to look at where they're at 15 years old, because you were like the child prodigy back then alongside Pinto and Kenzie, Mackenzie Emery. The level now is so astronomically crazy. I'm so glad that I was born 20, 30 years before these fools.
I'll stick to my sidekick over here.
And what's crazy to me is like, Shosei and them like didn't do martial arts growing up. Like, Shosei was a breakdancer first. And
damn, I did not know that.
Yeah, so you didn't watch his JAMCast?
No, I saw it. I just didn't know that, yo. Hey, my bad.
roasted. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I learned that only on his JAMCast because I was like, how is this little kid so good? Like, what sport did he do before? And he's like, I was a breakdancer, but I was bad at it. I'm like, what? You were bad at it? He's like, yeah, tricking is like my first thing I found I was good at. I'm like, well, that is crazy as hell, That is crazy to me. So who do you keep up to date with, and who do you watch?
I mean, for the most part, I watch everything.
Wow.
But like that's just when I'm on Instagram, like scrolling, I'll watch it, right? But if I specifically go to YouTube to watch something, I still consider myself, I'm not old school, but I can consider myself old school in the way that I watch all the older videos. Yeah. Like I don't really search up new stuff. It's like I watch Anis's stuff, Jeremy's stuff, Danny's stuff, like Donovan Sheehan stuff, all that. Yeah. I watch those videos. Okay. That's what keeps me entertained.
That is wild. Yeah. And do you ever think that you will get back into tricking on your own, or at this point, is it just something you do like once every few months just to release,
I think I'll get back into it because the guys I train with now, which are like the Sharkey guys, it's like the family, we talk about it all the time. We're like, oh, dude, we miss tricking. We were training a couple days ago, and Tony did a sideswipe. Andrew Franklin did a sideswipe. I was like, yeah. I think I'll get back into it again, but we'll see.
Wow. Yeah. All right. That'll be interesting to see. It'll be super crazy to see how your body has changed over the years and see like if things are the same or not. Yeah. When you throw tricks right now, do you feel lost? Do you feel like, oh, my timing's off? Or do you still have everything pretty much on lock that you used to do?
I think I have everything on lock for the most part. It's just the thing inside of me where like I see something that's off a little bit or whatever. It's like that everywhere now. Yeah. I can still rip a 720, but like the personal things, like the knee isn't like over here and like the leg's not like that. The hands are kind of funky. It's like my body doesn't naturally do it anymore. I'd have to train it for a while to get it back to normal. And
I know one of the other things that you're not necessarily like as well known as Dan Perez for it, but I personally know, having watched you at Jam, you can do a significant amount of tricks on both sides. Mm-hmm. Like I know you can do pretty much up through cork on both sides, right? Like
I haven't done cork on the other side, but I think I can.
But you've done B-twist gainer both sides, right? Yeah. Yeah. I've seen you do B-twist gainer both sides, obviously B-twist both sides, cheat 720s and 540s. Yeah. How did you learn that? Was that something that you did for the sake of competition, or is that something you just did extra just for fun?
Just extra for fun. My original tricking side was like a Jacob Pinto side. What do you say, to the left or to the right?
Yeah, to the right side. Yeah.
Yeah, my original like cartwheel and aerial stuff was to the right.
No way.
And so when I started doing forms,
is that why you're good at gumbies?
I think so. Damn. I talked about it with Michael Guthrie, and I think that's why, and Alex Hunter. I think if you naturally cartwheel on this side, it's way easier to gumby putting your right hand down.
100%.
Yeah, allowing like left side swing throughs. Okay. Damn, what were we talking about?
You were saying that that you started learning things on the other side just for fun, but then like when it became time for like
like tornado, all my kicking tricks went to the left side.
Yeah,
and so I'd have to relearn everything that side.
So you made the decision to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. Yeah, like you said, it was just for fun, and I would just see how far I can go, and I can't go that far with it, but it's like. Beach twist was easy, so I was like, okay, beach twist on that side, fairly easy. And then gainers, just backflip off one leg. It was like, okay, just try it off the other leg. Damn. It kind of happened like that with all the basic tricks, and then I haven't really tried any more intermediate or advanced tricks on the other side.
That's wild to think about, man. Yeah, it's crazy. The game has changed so much. Oh, yeah. Just even in a short amount of time. Like the last 5 years, I'd say. Yeah. There's like a new wave of trickers and huge a new growth. Style. Yeah. It's astronomical at this point. And so like in the immediate sense right now, you're obviously... None of us are working. because of this quarantine and lockdown right now. But what are you doing to stay busy during this time? You know, I know a lot of kids at home that are even listening to this right now are probably losing their minds and going crazy. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing yourself to pass this time and get through it?
I mean, quarantine's been cool because it's just, I'm just doing my normal everyday thing, which is very basic. It's like wake up, like play video games and then work out, right? Yeah. And then come back and play video games. It's like very simple, but doing that nonstop every day and not like leaving my house, I think I went a little crazy. And so me and my friends have been we talked about it and we just made sure everything was really clean. We kind of get together every couple of days and work out, and that's been helping me not go crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so every couple of days we do some martial arts training, some lifting, and then that's all I've been doing really.
Okay. Yeah. Dope. Hell yeah. Well, we appreciate it, man. And so just for kids that are back home listening right now, let's say there's a little random kid in Chicago that's listening and he's like, I want to get into stunts and stuff like that. What advice do you have for him and what path he should start on at that age in order to follow in your footsteps?
That's a hard one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. Damn. I would say just pick a martial art and stick with it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And then just try and emulate what everyone else is doing. You know, you have YouTube.
Yeah.
So find a favorite fight and just do that. Right. I think if I had to choose, I would tell a younger kid to go train like Kali or something, just because it encompasses a whole lot of martial arts in one martial art.
Yes.
Right. And so I think if you're going to do stunts, it's good to get yourself accustomed to that kind of movement, that kind of like weapon work. That way you don't get thrown into it and you're like, yeah. Right. I remember when I first moved to LA, I did a little fight with Manny. It was where I was wearing this like this neon green thing, and he had me do like a quick trapping thing.
Yes.
A quick trapping section, and I never did that before, and so the timing and the cadence was off, and I just felt weird doing it, and so I think practicing any kind of martial art you can before this will help a lot.
Okay.
For sure.
That's super good advice. Mm-hmm. And now one of the things you brought up, which is like find a fight scene and replicate the fight scene. One of the things that I've also been seeing lately, which is kind of cool, and I just want to get your opinion on it, is two kids that actually took that advice really to heart, is Aiden Kennedy and Salif Solis.
Yes.
And I know that you've had a good deal, a little bit of a hand in helping out those kids. Mm-hmm. Do you talk to them about stunts and stuff at all, or was your impact strictly just NASCA stuff back in the days?
The impact was NASCA back in the day, but over the past couple of years, I think we've been leaning more towards stunts. Like, the conversations are more towards stunts, not NASCA, right? And they've just been asking like what to train, how to fix this, whatnot. And I think the older they get, and them getting closer to moving out here, the more training we'll be able to do.
Yeah, I agree. I've done a couple of privates with Aiden, and that kid's got it, dude.
He's awesome.
He's got it. He just, as he gets older and just grows into his body more and just becomes more confident in himself, he could totally do this.
Yes, for sure.
So, and after seeing the scenes, both of them could do it at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty inspiring to watch the next gen. I wish that I knew that I wanted to do this fully at 15, you know? Yeah, like it's such a blessing they know already.
I feel like for all those NASCA kids at that age, what am I saying here? At that age, it's... Don't know what I'm saying, Travis. Stunts is like I feel like a perfect thing for NASCA kids at that age to try to pursue. Because they already have that performance in them. You know, they already have abilities and whatnot. Yeah. It's like, I feel like if you were going to actually do stunts, like 14, 15 years old is a good time to start training for it.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I always, whenever a little kid like that asks me for advice, I'm always happy to give them advice to save them the time and years of wasting trying to figure out what to do with their lives, you know? Like, it's so cool that we have kids that are that age now that are aware of the business, and they have people like yourself to look up to and know like, oh, okay, I don't have to like win world titles just to put it on my resume, but then I still have to go to college because I need to get a real job. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so surreal to me that there's always been like guys that win world championships, you know? I mean, it's the same thing across the board, even in like gymnastics, for example. I know people there, gymnasts their entire life, you know, dedicate their life to the sport, go win gold medals. It's like, then what do? You're a gymnastics coach? Yeah. Like maybe if you're super famous, you could be a public speaker and stuff like that. Right. But otherwise, like you put all those years and hours into training for literally nothing, essentially, or something that won't pay off long term. So yeah, it's dope to see the next gen putting in the time and stuff.
I think with them being so young too, and being focused on it now, it'll just up the game for the future.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm very glad that they're taking putting their heart into it.
Yeah, taking the right steps. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, dude, we tell up and coming stunt people all the time, the best advice we have when you're just starting off and you're not well-rounded enough yet, or you know, you haven't been in this game long enough to choreograph for yourself. Don't try to choreograph for yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people waste their time and energies doing it. Me and Vlad have sat on this mic. Manny sat in that chair. We've talked about this over and over again. Find a fight scene online and just try to copy that fight scene.
Right.
And then you have a reference to look back at it and then compare it to the original and go, oh, we don't look that good.
Yeah.
Why don't we? Let's do this, you know? And so that's what's so cool, that it literally took 2 15-year-old kids to actually take our advice to heart. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I'm going to help them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
You know, like that's all we need to see. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, this is the question that I kind of ask everyone before we get out of here. And you may have an answer, you may not have an answer. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? And then where do you see yourself 10 years from now? If you can think that far ahead.
I think 5 years, still fight coordinating, hopefully, and still performing. And then even because this whole fight coordinating thing is still new to me, I think even 10 years, I would still like to be fight coordinating and performing.
Okay.
If that's possible. I would like to really get that down, and so I'm comfortable with it. And I know I'm good at it, you know, before I move on to anything else. So I think right now, just fight coordinating, performing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope, dude. Mm-hmm. You're also so young that you're like, you can still do the same thing 10 years from now.
Yeah.
10 years from now, I better be doing something way different. Otherwise, I got problems, y'all.
Yeah.
I got problems. But that's cool, man. No, I appreciate it. And more than anything, dude, I appreciate you finally coming down and spending some time sitting here with us. Yeah. I know that you hate interviews more than anything.
Got bamboozled into it, dude.
I know, dude. Much respect to Vlad Rimberg, man. We owe that guy the world for making this happen. But I know that you hate interviews and stuff like that, but it really means a lot that you're able to sit down, share your perspective. And more than anything, it's not even for me. It's for, you know, these random kids around the world that are listening to this. What you said right now may strike a chord with one of them. And if we're able to impact someone's life, I think that we've done a good job. So that's all it's about.
Thank you, Travis.
Hell yeah.
And
I kind of joked with you too. One of the things that I have to do, and I'm going to say it out here publicly so that everyone knows, is Sensei Sharkey has agreed to do a JAMCast with me eventually. And that's something that I definitely want to make happen, considering how many people he's impacted, including yourself.
That's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah. So before we get out of here, man, can you just look into that camera and just tell people where they can follow you and stay up to date with your journey, whether that's Instagram or whatever? Just tell them what your handle is.
I have a Facebook, but I'm mainly on Instagram. You can just find me at Micah Karns.
Hell yeah. And as always, guys, please be sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe for brand new episodes each and every week. Join us every Monday for Jam Breakdowns and every Friday for brand new JAMCast, interviewing influential members of the movement community like Mr. Micah Karns himself. So as always, guys, I got to give a very special shout out to Mr. Connor Simon for running the cameras in the Switcher app. Welcome back, sir. As always, I got to give a special thank you to our guest this week, Mr. Micah Karns. And as always, guys, coming through, I'm your host, Travis Wong. Thanks for joining us here on another JAMCast. Until next time, we'll see you all soon.
Coming through.